Hello human extraterrestrials, I have made little to no preparation for this video, I just want to talk at camera. So, this is a reading wrap up for the first 2 months of the year for what I read in January and February. I read 5 books, I'm going to talk about them. If I look worse for wear, it's because I'm currently in isolation because I've got COVID. And if you can hear birds, that's because my window's open on this beautiful day where I cannot go out and enjoy it, but it's fine. Yeah, I am in pajamas and my partner's hoodie, and I'm just going to talk about these books because I started reading again properly in 2022, and it has been I'll just tell you about the books. So the first book I read was a 2-star read. Now they can't all be winners, but this one was a real disappointment. This is Garments Against Women by Anne Boyer. This book, God, what do I even have to say about this book? It felt like it was trying really hard to make statements and say new and interesting and deep and groundbreaking things, and it just didn't. Like it felt like Anne was making an attempt, like she was going, oh, I'm gonna say I want to talk about these things. It was very broad strokes. I don't know, she talked about a lot of stuff and it kind of felt like she was very knowledgeable. That Boyer felt like she was very knowledgeable about lots of things in life because she'd lived a life. But she wasn't really knowledgeable enough in one thing to write a book about it. So she was just kind of like, I'm going to smash all this kind of prose kind of poetry, wordy stuff together and call it a book and make it sell out and give it awards, and that's gonna be it. And that is what happened. It is award winning. The New York Times loved it, but there's lots of good reviews from people that I respect on the blurb, you know what I mean, and like well-known writers and things that thought this was brilliant. I just don't understand why. It was not for me. That's all I'll say. It was 2 stars. I didn't think it was like, I sound like a teacher grading an essay, but it was not without potential. I just didn't understand, like, it's like when you write an essay in school and you like vaguely know your thoughts and like what's going on, so you write like a vague, like it felt like a vague outline with like 1 or 2 really detailed bits that didn't need to be super detailed. You know, I just didn't like it. Maybe it just was not the book for me, and I'm glad other people enjoyed it and got stuff out, but it just felt incredibly fake deep, was kind of what I got from it. So, there. The next book is a 4-star read, which is better. This is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. If you've not heard of this, you were not big on, like, you were not on book talk, or not book talk, booktube during like, this was big in like this book came out in like 2012 first, but it got really big in like kind of 2015, 2016 on YouTube, and I finally got around to reading it and I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I enjoy young adult and coming of age stories. Just generally, they're one of my favourite genres. I'm so sorry about the noise. What is that? Give me 2 seconds. Okay, we're good. Oh, okay, we're good. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, this book talks about a lot of things. The basic premise, if you don't know, is the 2 boys. Ari, who hates being called Aristotle, he's an angry teenage boy who doesn't make friends very well and doesn't really feel like he fits in. He's Mexican, growing up in, oh god, where are they growing up? No, I can't remember the name of the place for the life of me. Point being, He meets this boy called Dante, also Mexican, which is relevant, by the way, in that they talk about their identities and things like that, and how they impact their lives and all this stuff. It reminded me a lot. Really interestingly, I think it's just because it's a very like introspective book. It reminded me a lot of The Art of Being Normal, if that's a book that anyone that follows me has read. Which is a book about a young trans person. I read it years and years ago, so I could be making false connections in my head. Like, I think I read it when I was 13 or something, but, and I've met the author, who's lovely. But it, I don't know, it just felt very similar to that in that it was very, young people who discovering who they are in this kind of, like, this is not present time, but the way that it was kind of, I don't know, it was very like angsty, and I'm not saying it didn't have to be angsty because the context behind everything, sure, right, there's a lot of stuff going on. I have no issues with angst. I don't think it's a bad thing. It felt very similar tonally to that book, and it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was very sweet. I've been told that the sequel is garbage, so I probably will not read the sequel, but it was very good and I really enjoyed it. It's been sitting on my shelf for years, so I'm glad I finally got around to reading it. The next book is a 5-star review, because this is not a book so much as it's a collection. This is Cat Poems by the World's Greatest Cat Poets. This is just does what it says in the tin. It's full of loads of poems. It's got stuff like the album The Pussycat, which if you haven't heard of it, what did you read in your childhood? But yeah, but there's like it's lots of cat poetry. There's lots of cat poetry in it. Of which you can probably see that I have made some notes. But there's loads of just different poems, and I really enjoyed them, and it was a really nice breath of fresh air and something different, because I love poetry, and I love dipping in and out of poetry books, but to just read some poetry about cats, front to back, it brought me a lot of joy, because a lot of the special bonds with animal, like bonds between you and your animal mean a lot to me. As a person that certainly feels like I have very strong bonds with animals that I've, like pets that I've had when I was younger and current pets and things like that, it means a lot to me, and this was very sweet. There were some that I was like, but you know, not everyone's going to be a winner. This is by various different people, but it was good. It was worth reading. Yes. That is all the books that I read in January. Now I have 2 books that I read in February. The first one is a chunky book, to say the least. Very, very, very big lad. Yeah. This is A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour. This came out 2 years ago. This came out in 2020. This is a sequel to Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which I've also read, obviously. This book, I thought about doing a review of this book on its own, and I might still do one, but I'm going to talk about it here. I can't really say much about it without spoiling it because it's a sequel, so I would be spoiling multiple books, but it was because it is not a spoiler to say that these books are kind of mystery-ish. They're not like murder mysteries or anything like that, but they're sci-fi books, and there's mystery involved, and it was really interesting trying to figure out what was going on. And I don't know, the characters in these books just I get them and they get me, you know. Hank Green does an incredible job of writing. There's a couple of things that he'll say and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is a man writing this, and that's not like he's taken from from lots of perspectives, but there's the occasional line slip up that's clearly not been checked very well that I'm like, that isn't, yeah, no, you don't have this lived experience, so the way you think about this is very different. if that makes sense. And that's no shame to the man, because, you know, that's just how, like, there's certain things in perspective that there's very little you can do, but he'd just say things, I'm like, that's almost right. But it was great. This was, I don't know how many stars. I just don't. I really just don't. I want to say 4, like, it's at least a 4-star book. I don't know if it's 5 stars. I was so enthralled. I'm gonna say it's a 5-star book, I think. I never actually reviewed it on my story graph, which I will link down there. It's great. It was really enjoyable, and I'd missed April May, who's the protagonist of both of these books. I'd missed all the characters that were in it because I haven't touched that universe since I finished the first book originally when it came out. Not when it came out, but I read, is it a dog? Or in like 2018, which I want to say is when it came out. But I've not touched any of that since then. So it was nice to jump back into this world, which is, in fairness, treacherous. But that's what sci-fi does to you. It was great. It was really enjoyable and very worthwhile. Now, the last book I have not long finished. This is 4.5 stars. This book was originally fanfiction. It was very big on TikTok. This is Ali Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis. This is obviously based off of bloody Reylo fanfiction, but if we ignore that, because I don't know a lot about Star Wars, like modern Star Wars, I know the first 6 films, and like that's about it, to be honest. But yeah, ignoring that this was originally fan fiction and viewing it as its own piece of work, big fan, thought it was great. It felt like I was reading fan fiction, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing, in the same way that like Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which in fairness was written to be like fan fiction, this fully just was originally. It just, because it had the whole it was very tropey, and like it had all of that, and the whole it was really good. It was a nice romance. The basic plot is that this girl whose name I've already forgotten, called Olive, she is at Stanford, I think, I want to say, yeah, she's at Stanford Uni, doing sciencey stuff. She's doing research about cancer, and she basically ends up fake dating this professor who's not her professor, or in her, like, kind of, he didn't have any classes with her, isn't a mentor or anything, because, you know, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. She ends up fake dating him to the gain of them both. She fake dates him so that her best friend doesn't think, she still has a crush on someone that her best friend wants to date but isn't going to date because she feels bad because she thinks that Olive still has a crush on him. That's a really convoluted way of putting it, but you know what I mean. It's a nice little romp, and it was way more, like, yes, it was like hard. There was way more like hard-hitting stuff happening in this book than I expected there to be. I don't know, it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was good. The writing was good. Well done, Ali Hazelwood. You did a good job. That's all I have to say. It was romantic. I liked him, and I know he's just based off of Kylo Ren, but the character, ignoring that, was charming and enjoyable, and I liked him. In fairness, is based on a fan version of Kylo Ren, which is not what Kylo Ren is like in the films, to my knowledge, at all. But yes, no, great, enjoyable. I don't know, my brain is fuzzy, but I wanted to talk to you guys. I'm in the midst of reading a lot of books right now, as I always am, but I'm going to tell you one that I am reading, which is, I am currently rereading The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is the ugliest cover I've ever seen of it. It's not my favourite. I missed the one with all the words. This is not that. But yeah, I'm rereading Perks because this is a book that impacted me a lot when I was like 14, and I don't know, I just saw it in Waterstones and was like, because I originally read this book from the library, so I never have a physical copy of this, and I was like, I have to buy it. And I like was looking, honestly, I was being really boring and looking at how the front pages were formatted and stuff, and was like, you know what, fine, and I started reading it. So that will be the next book I finish, probably. But yeah, that's all I have to say. 15 minutes to talk about 5.5 books. How interesting. Yeah, that's what I got. Thank you for watching this. I'm probably gonna, if I do updates when it comes to books, probably do them less often. But yeah, I love you. Goodbye.